was a warm, moonlit night in August in central Vermont. I was driving down Interstate 89, which is the main artery extending across the length of the state. But Vermont is still a low-population state, so long stretches of highway can be desolate late at night, and this particular night was eerily quiet as I drove home from my late shift. I was more worried about hitting a deer that might run out from the tall trees on either side of the road. My headlights never seemed to cut through the shadows enough on those late-night drives, and on this night, the darkness coupled with the heat felt thicker, more oppressive. I glanced at the clock on the dashboard. 12:48 a.m. The only sounds were the hum of the engine and the tires on the pavement. My eyes were already tired, and I was only halfway home. About 20 minutes into my drive, I noticed a pair of headlights appear in my rearview mirror. At first, I didn't think much of it. Late-night drivers weren't uncommon, and I assumed it was just someone else making their way through the night. I expected them to switch lanes and pass me as they had approached fast. But as the minutes ticked by, they stayed right on my tail, maintaining a consistent distance. The sight of those bright headlights in my rear view made me uncomfortable. But I rationalized that it might be someone on autopilot, genuinely unaware of how awkwardly close they were following. To test my suspicions, I got proactive and switched lanes, hoping they'd pass and be on their way. But to my alarm, the car changed lanes too, keeping the same distance. My heartbeat quickened, and I tried again to rationalize the situation. Maybe they were just cautious, or lost, or nervous about driving at night. Again, to test the theory, I switched back to the right lane. They didn't follow, but instead matched my speed exactly, pacing me, no matter how slow or fast I went. It was like they were toying with me, maintaining an eerie parallel. I couldn't see the driver, or even if it was just a lone driver, but I could tell it was an SUV of some sort. A sense of dread settled in my stomach. This wasn't just a case of someone mindlessly following. It felt intentional. My mind raced through a list of creepy possibilities, each more disturbing than the last. Was it a drunk driver? A carjacker? Or something even worse? I decided to take my chances and get off the highway at the next exit in an effort to lose them. As the exit approached, I quickly jerked the wheel towards the ramp, and to my horror, the car swerved over as well, as if they were going to follow me off the highway. I slammed on the gas, unsure if I could make the turn, but just as I was about to veer into the exit, the car slowed down and lurched over onto the shoulder. My eyes flicked to the rearview mirror, where I saw them parked on the side of the road, the car's headlights still facing forward. A shiver ran down my spine as I watched the car fade into the distance behind me. But just as relief started to wash over me, I heard a loud pop. Before I could react, my rear window shattered, glass sprayed into the car, and I instinctively ducked, my heart pounding in my chest. Someone had shot at me. When I pressed down on the gas pedal, my car careened into the wall of the exit. My first thought was to stop, but I knew I had to keep going. As I sped around the corner, I saw the car pull back onto the highway and disappear. My mind raced as I tried to process what had just happened. Who was that? Why were they following me, and why had they shot at me? I grabbed my phone and dialed 911, my hands shaking. As the operator answered, I tried to explain what had happened, my voice trembling with fear. They told me to stay on the line, that they'd dispatch units, and to keep driving until I could find a safe place to pull over. I kept driving, my eyes darting to the rear-view mirror every few seconds. Thankfully, the car was nowhere in sight, but I was shaken, feeling a gnawing sensation in the pit of my stomach. I finally found a well-lit gas station and pulled over, my hands still shaking as I waited for the police to arrive. I was so terrified that I'd see that SUV before the police found me. When the police arrived, I told them the entire story, from the car following me to the shattered window. The officers took my statement and inspected the damage, but there was little they could do at that moment. I was still in shock as I got back into my car. The rest of the drive home was a blur, my mind racing with fear and confusion. Who would do something like this? And why target me? Not a month later, I heard that a woman was shot in the early morning hours while driving on Interstate 89. She was found inside her car, which was parked on the shoulder along the same stretch of road where someone had shot at me. The shooter was never caught. Even now, I can't drive on I-89 without feeling anxious. All the feelings of that night come rushing back, hitting me like a ton of bricks. The sense of being watched, the sudden violence, and most terrifying, I think of what could have happened if I hadn't just kept driving. Be safe out there. I had only been in the apartment for a few hours before I felt the first twinges of unease. My company had set me up in this place for a 2-month stay while I worked on a project out of town. The apartment was conveniently located and furnished, but from the moment I stepped inside, something felt off. The sense of being watched was constant, an ever-present feeling that I just couldn't shake. The hairs on the back of my neck would stand on end for no apparent reason, and I often found myself glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone or something standing there. I spent as little time as possible in that place, opting instead to hit the fitness center or eat out. The first incident happened 3 nights after I moved in. I woke up in the middle of the night needing to use the bathroom. As I stumbled out of bed, I heard it, slow footsteps in the hallway outside my room. I froze, listening intently. The footsteps stopped abruptly, and then an eerie silence filled the apartment. I turned on my bedroom light and stepped into the hallway, where I was immediately overwhelmed with the earthy smell of candles or incense. It was so strong that I worried a fire had started somewhere. I checked the studio living area and the 2 closets, but there was nothing out of place. From then on, the feeling of unease only grew stronger, and the smell lingered, especially in the hallway outside my bedroom. Every time I came home from work, I would drop my backpack and try to unwind, but immediately feel that urge to leave. It felt like I wasn't alone, like there was someone or something inside that apartment with me. One night, I woke up to find a dark shadow at the door of the hallway. At first, I thought I was still dreaming, but then it shifted, climbed onto the ceiling, and disappeared from view. My heart pounded in my chest, and I broke out in a cold sweat. Again, I stepped out of the room into the silent hallway to find nothing but the smell of burnt-out candles. From that point on, I slept with the lights on and the bedroom door closed. My coworker Sarah, another out-of-town contractor, asked me to dinner, and of course I jumped at the chance to avoid that apartment for a few hours. She met me at the apartment, and as I grabbed my purse from the bedroom doorknob, she stepped inside and waved hello to me. We left together and went to a little Mexican restaurant nearby. Over dinner, Sarah talked about missing her husband and asked what mine did for work. I told her I wasn't in a relationship, and she paused, looking confused. "But who was that man in your hallway?" she asked. I felt a chill run down my spine. What do you mean?" "When I came in, there was a tall, quiet man standing beside you in the hallway," she said. "I waved at him, but he didn't even look at me. He was just staring at you. I thought he was your boyfriend or something." My stomach lurched. There was no man in the apartment, at least none that I knew of. The realization hit me, draining the color from my face. Sarah had seen something, someone, that I hadn't. I called it quits with that place after that night. The free apartment wasn't worth the constant fear and anxiety. I packed my bags and left, telling my company that I'd find my own accommodation from then on. I don't know who or what was in that apartment, but I still think about it sometimes. The tall, quiet man Sarah saw, the shadow on the ceiling, the footsteps in the hallway. It all felt so real, yet so bizarre. All I know is that I'm glad to be far away from that place, and I hope I never experience anything like it again. In high school, our campus was poorly situated just 2 blocks away from the city jail. It wasn't uncommon to experience lockdowns whenever there was an escape or some incident that broke out at the jail. The school had a policy of keeping all the doors locked, presumably to prevent students from doing anything unsupervised. This setup was annoying because you'd have to get a bathroom key for the nearest bathroom from your teacher. Not to mention, it was stressful to feel confined in your own school. One sticky late August day, just after school had started back up, I decided to kill the last 30 minutes of math class before lunch by asking for the bathroom key. I told my teacher I needed to use the restroom, and I headed off with the keys to the bathroom and the gym, since the bathroom closest to the classroom was inside the gym. I entered the dimly lit gym, pushed open the bathroom door, and hopped onto the sink to scroll through my phone. Suddenly, the harsh blare of the lockdown alarm echoed through the empty gym, jolting me back to attention, and my heart rate spiked. I quickly hopped down and rushed back out into the hallway, hoping to make it back to the classroom before my teacher locked it. As I hurried towards the main building, I heard the principal's voice over the intercom. "Attention students and staff, we are in lockdown. I repeat, we are in lockdown. There's been an incident at the jail. Please follow all lockdown procedures immediately." Panic began to set in as I realized the doors to the main building were locked, and I reached into my pocket for the key and found it empty. As I did, I heard the sickening sound of the gym doors slamming behind me, and I realized I was stuck in the narrow, dimly lit hallway between the gym and the rest of the school. The hallway was long and narrow, windowless, and lit by a motion detector light. All I could think about was making it back to that classroom. My breathing was coming faster as I yanked on the handle to the door leading back to the main building, hoping it would miraculously open. But it didn't. The silence in the hallway was deafening, broken only by the occasional distant sound of the alarm. I turned back towards the gym, hoping it might be unlocked, but remembering full well I had used the key to get into the gym. The realization that I was trapped alone hit me hard, and I leaned against the cold cinder block wall trying to keep it together. Just as I was about to pull out my phone to text my friends, I heard a noise from the gym. At first, it was faint, like someone was walking on the bleachers slowly. I froze, straining to listen. As the sound grew louder, my mind raced. I hadn't seen anyone in the gym. The lights were off, and it had been silent as the grave. Could someone from the jail actually get inside our school? I crept towards the gym door and peered through one of the narrow windows on the door. The gym was empty, but I could still hear the steps echoing off the walls. It was then that I noticed a shadow along the far wall of the gym, as if someone or something was moving just out of sight. I backed away from the door as the steps got closer and ran to the far end of the hallway, desperately hoping it was a teacher or someone else I knew. Suddenly, the intercom crackled to life again. "Attention, all students and staff. The lockdown is now over. You may resume your normal activities." Relief washed over me, but as the announcement ended, I heard the gym door creak open behind me. I whipped around to see a guy step into the hallway. He was tall and gaunt, wearing an orange prison uniform. His eyes were wild, and when he saw me, he put his hand to his lips to keep me from screaming. Without thinking, I pounded on the main building doors, screaming for help. I heard the gym door close behind me as he slipped away. One of the teachers unlocked my door, and I swung it wide open, stumbling into the safety of the main building. I spit out my story, pointing back towards the hallway, but when they checked, the hallway was empty. The guy had vanished, leaving only the broken glass of the window he'd broken to get into and out of the gym. The police were called, and the school was thoroughly searched, but he was long gone. The scariest part of all was that I hadn't noticed a broken window, and I would have heard it break from the silence of the bathroom, which means that guy had been in the gym before I had gone in there. Every time I think of high school now, I think of that man putting his finger to his lips to silence me. I hate to think what could have happened if I hadn't left the gym when I did, or banged on the door instead of staying silent like he had wanted me to. If you like these stories, this is the place for you. I cover scary stories about ghosts, cryptids, paranormal events, and disturbing, creepy human encounters. My Etsy store is open if you'd like to support me there. The link's in the description. Thanks for watching, and see you next week.